Hello learners, welcome to the third module of the program Tribal Entrepreneurship and Economics. Today our lecture is based on the managerial and entrepreneurial approaches. Before we move to the today's lecture, let me deal with what we have studied previous lectures of this module 3, where we described the meaning of tribal market, its concept and its nature. Essentially, one should understand that tribal market should not always be considered as a market which is in the vicinity of tribal belt. It can be extended to any length, and nowadays even the online presence of tribal products and services can be considered into the tribal market zone. Similarly, only if a tribal entrepreneur or a tribal person selling some product or services, it should not be considered as a tribal market, because he or she might be selling the products which are abundantly available through the businesses already producing in a mass production. So again, we understand that tribal market is a market for essentially a product or services which are being manufactured by the tribal community, mostly through its traditional methods and knowledge. Now, this was the earlier discussion. In today's discussion, we will deal with a brief overview of managerial and entrepreneurial approaches of tribal entrepreneurship, importance of both the approaches, and then identifying the detail about managerial approaches of tribal entrepreneurship in this lecture. As the name suggests, the managerial approach is considered when the company or an organization whose economic goal is to use efficiently and effectively the human, material, financial and informational resources. Or if in length we can understand, or the essence of it could we understand, that the managerial approach is looking forward of efficiency and efficacy of different types of inputs in the production of goods and services. And not only that, this efficiency and efficacy is calculated to identify that how and at what level the production will be profitable. When we talk about the entrepreneurial approach is a little different from this particular aspect. In entrepreneurial approach, the main focus is on how the entrepreneur imaginate, initiate and innovate the things which can be beneficial for the society and which can be produced by all these innovations, imaginations and the initiations by him in a business model. Here, we are not going to deal it in detail, but yes, we should understand here that these both approaches are very much important. Not only the managerial approach, but also the entrepreneurial approach is important for tribal entrepreneurship. Reason being that when the managerial approach is beneficial for problem solving and decision making, the managerial approach looks forward for the stability of the business over the ambitious goals, so that it can identify that where the available resources can be utilized and may not be misutilized for overemphasizing the other goals of the business. On the other hand, the entrepreneur looks for the new opportunities and he is ready to take the risk and usually makes the decision on the basis of the future of his business. So we cannot divide both of these principles, both of these approaches from a business. A business, whether it is a tribal business, whether it is a simple business, both requires a certain extent of managerial approach and certain extent of the entrepreneurial approach. Now again, when we are talking about the managerial approach, as I have mentioned that the managerial approach is basically looking forward for efficiency and efficacy of different inputs given into the business. Let's see in the key characteristics of managerial approach. The first one is seeking input and advice from employees. It is not like that in the managerial approach always the manager will be boss. We are considering we are living in a democratic country, and we also consider that the business should be running in a democratic way, and so the manager should seek the opinion of different employees before making a decision. The second thing is promoting teamwork and collaboration. The main idea of managerial business is that working in a team. It is not like that some people is working in other aspects, the other is doing in other aspects, and then assembling the same. Here, all the processes are running in a length, in a detailed manner, so that all the employees should be aligned with the mission and vision of the business. Third is, though it is a democratic idea, the manager should also monitor the employees for their efficiency and efficacy. Because if there is no chain of command, if there is no monitoring, the employees may be loosed end and they may not provide a better working in the organization. Last is the clear direction from the manager. It is saying that manager, there should be a chain of command in the managerial approach, and one employee should not receive number of rules, should not receive number of ideas, number of directions from different types of managers. He should be following a single chain of command so that the businesses should have no ambiguity in their uses. When we talk about the managerial approach, the three aspects are mainly important, which is here mentioned in the screen. That is emphasis on stability, predictability and efficiency. Now let me deal what are these. When we talk about the stability, it is the main role of managerial approach, that a manager or a managerial approach actually looks forward to run the business for a long run. It should not be like that a business is opened just for a gesture or just for a namesake or just for the passing the time. It should be the business which should have a flow of funds and flow of businesses all along. We also say in the commerce, हम लोग कंपनी को एक शाश्वत अस्तित्व वाला बिजनेस मानते हैं, which says that the company is a perpetual in existence. Its promoters may go, its investors may go, its employee may go, but the company's existence and company's role will remain forever. So on that basis, stability is must, and it has already been emphasized that a manager is basically looking forward for the stability of the business rather than any ambitious goal. Second point is the predictability. Here the manager also think about those types of predictions which have unseen, which may not be happening, but somehow may have some chances of happening in future. Take an example of COVID. No business was identifying that this type of outbreak of pandemic will disdain all the businesses. सारे के सारे व्यापार, सारे के सारे यातायात, सब कुछ ठप पड़ गया और पूरी की तरह से कर्फ्यू लगा दिया गया और कोई भी बिजनेस डीलिंग संभव नहीं थी. ऐसी स्थिति में बिजनेस को सरवाइव कर पाने के लिए एक अच्छी कैपिटल का होना आवश्यक था. So in that sense, I understand that this was a very once in a century condition, but still a manager should be very pinpointed of using the funds so that any type of unforeseen views can also be managed over the long period of time. The third point is efficiency. When the managerial approach is working through the employees and staff, it becomes important that all the employees and staff should be fulfilling their duties at the fullest. It is possible that some of the staff, some of the employees may not be working in a good spirit, but still the overall objective, overall goal of the organization should be met with the limited resources and the given time frame. In that way, the organization be in a managerial approach that the efficiency of its should be somewhat be measured from 80% to 100%. In a more labor oriented businesses, maybe 100% efficiency may not be obtained, and same is the case with the tribal entrepreneurship. When we talk about from the point of view of tribal entrepreneurship, if we see these managerial approaches of stability, predictability and efficiency, we see that the tribal entrepreneurs are stable, reason being that they are limited to their traditional knowledge. They have limited idea of developing the products and services, and so they are stable in their productions. But the other 2 points like predictability and efficiency are the points to ponder for tribal entrepreneurs, because the tribal entrepreneurs always works with a thin margin of cash, with a thin capital, and once if the business is in dwindle, the tribal business may not do good for a long term. So maybe the predictability feature should be enhanced in the tribal entrepreneurship. The efficiency is again a problem, because mostly the tribal businesses are run by the family members, and sometimes they do not wish to work in a length or in a idea working as a professional. Sometimes they have to work in a way that even they can leave out the professionals behind to surpass the production level. But unfortunately, most of the tribal businesses lacks into these 2 points of predictability and efficiency. Now, if we talk about the tribal entrepreneurship from the view of functions of management, we all know that any management actually has these 5 essential functions, which is starting from planning, organizing, staffing, directing and controlling. If we think about all these aspects from the tribal entrepreneurship point of view, what I can assume that the planning part is totally missing in the tribal entrepreneurs. Whatever tribal entrepreneurs are being established in the past, it has been identified that they somehow came into the feature or the knowledge of the general public. Their products have been started selling, but since it was not planned, they might not flourished in a way that could have been. Yes, it is true that in modern society, in this modern century, some of the tribal businesses are being started with proper planning, and they may grow with the leaps and bounds. The organizing structure of tribal business is also a problem area, because most of the tribal businesses are being run by the family members or the tribal community of nearby area, and a proper tribal entrepreneur or tribal business manager may not have full control on their organization. Not only this, the recruitment process, the selection process and also the direction process is challenging, because some of the family members may be superior in age to the manager and some may be too young to be directed in a way of sophistication. But at the same time, if the organizing power is there with the tribal community, they can give a better entrepreneurial aspects rather than other. We should also understand here, we are talking about the organizing structure of the tribal entrepreneurs, but most of the listed companies in India are also actually family run businesses, and they are doing their best. So we can assume that in future, if one such tribal community come up which have the better management of the organization over their employees, which are also their family members, it will grow like anything. The staffing part is one where the tribal entrepreneur may not have the other aspects to look into, because naturally when the tribal products and services are being manufactured or rendered, it is being manufactured from the natural resources available to their vicinity and being produced or being managed by their tribal community itself. So, the staffing is to be done from their tribal belt itself, and it may give a sense of belongingness to them. The directing part is again very much important, that once a tribal entrepreneurship is open and a business is to be run in a proper manner, then there should be chain of command in the tribal entrepreneurship. It should not be like that there should be a manager, some other grandfather is working over him, or some grandmother is directing in another way. So, it should be very clear that the directing part should cover the aspect of chain of command, just like the regular businesses in the tribal entrepreneurship as well. The controlling part is very important for tribal entrepreneurship also. We can see that number of tribal people actually venture over to the different states to work for some other parties. Unfortunately, sometimes they do not get the required money for which they actually worked. If they are working for their community itself, developing the tribal products from their own business ideas, then it could be a better way of controlling the tribal people in their own vicinity, in their own locations, and also producing the best of from them. After talking about the functions of management, let me talk about the hierarchical organization structure. In a bigger organization, we see that a pyramid-like of structure where we have a top management, then some middle order managers, and then the workers and staffs working below them. In tribal entrepreneurship, identifying these types of pyramidal structure may be difficult, because it would be the same manager which would be the tribal member and also facilitating working as a member in that organization itself. It is not like that the manager would be a sitting position and the employees would only be working. Since the tribal people are producing their products and services in a family managed business like a cottage industry, almost all of its members are actually dealing in the productions of the goods. But it is possible that from the point of framework of talking to the other parties, dealing the business with the outsiders, there should be some top level of people out of their family which could manage these business affairs for all of the family members. Not only this, some people who would be semi-skilled or skilled enough, they could be considered at the middle level of management, while the youngsters, the unskilled, and the people who are started just doing this type of work can be taken into the lower level of the pyramid as employees and staff. But more or less, it can be said that the tribal business hardly follows any hierarchical structure, just like other business models. Now, when we talk about the decision making in a managerial approach, the two things comes very important to understand. One is that a proper manager actually looks forward for the quantitative analysis of all the aspects, like how many raw materials has been procured, how much is in the work in progress, how much the finished product is available as a stock in the godown, and what sales it has generated every month, maybe in the quarter or year on year basis. And not only this, it is compared with the profit margin every time. So, a manager is very much looking into the quantitative aspect of the business. In the tribal entrepreneurship business, this methodology should be adopted to identify that whether the products and services which are being stocked up should also sold up at the time, so that the capital could be generated from their own enterprise. It is not like that just the stacking up of the finished products be kept with the tribal community and the sale is not picking up. So in that way, a tribal manager, a tribal entrepreneur should look into the affairs of quantitative analysis into the decision making of business. The problem here is that maybe at most of the cases, the tribal manager may not have the basic idea of even this type of mathematics using to identify that what would have been the sold out and what the profit has been earned. And this is the area where the education and technology may help them in better decision making. The second aspect of decision making is establishing the procedure in managerial approach. Like here, the manager in general businesses look forward that which employee is actually an outperformer, and that employee is being benefited by providing him the bonus or the promotion, while the underperforming staff may not be giving any such benefits. But in the tribal entrepreneur business, mandating these types of procedures of managerial approach may be a little difficult, because all the parties, all the workers are actually from the same family or from the same community. So if the tribal entrepreneur or if a tribal manager is differentiating them on the basis of their outperformance or underperformance, may lead to social clashes or family clashes within the family members. So in this way, we can say that in decision making, the quantitative analysis is must for tribal entrepreneur also, but at the same time, the promotion part, the outperformance part, the underperformance part should be neglected for a small tribal entrepreneurial business. Now, let us see that how the managerial approaches are being used by the tribal entrepreneurship. I have two examples here. The one example is of C-Mart. It is actually the Chhattisgarh government originated idea that through its State Ministry of Tribal Affairs, the Chhattisgarh government has established physical stores with the name of C-Mart, where C stands for Chhattisgarh, and they actually there sell those products which are purely built by the tribal people. The tribal people may not have the access to the market, but the government will procure their finished products from their own area, and it could be sold out into the cities like Raipur, Bilaspur, Bastar, Sukma, and there they can get the benefits of these. In these stores, not only the basic medicinal plants and the required condiments are being sold, but also the things which are purely traditional in nature and being used by the Chhattisgarhi people are being sold. I once visited to one of these stores and purchased some items. Naturally, being from the natural area, and maybe the procurement would be quite tough, these products are little costly, but naturally their product quality was better. Not only this, the Chhattisgarh government is also looking forward to sell these products over online platforms. They have also registered themselves on the online platforms, but since the tribal belt may not produce these items in a long quantity, in a heavy quantity, so these products are often not available on the online platform, and this gives an avenue for a tribal entrepreneur to fill the gap of demand and supply. In this way, they can earn a better benefit. As I have already mentioned that there are many precious medicinal value plants which are only available in the dense forest of these tribal belts, and these may not be accessed to us directly. But with this C-Mart stores, these are available in the stores and one can purchase from there. The natural honey, which is raw honey, not processed in any way, was available there. And there are number types of daliyas, pulses. These all items were available. Not only this, the pure basmati rice was also available through this C-Mart channel of physical stores. Another example is from the central government side, that the central government through its Ministry of Tribal Affairs started the idea of bamboonomics, which is a mixture of word bamboo and economics, in 2019, where it has aligned with the two German parties so that the people who are from the tribal belts and who are actually cultivating the bamboos, developing craft from that, some other materials from that, they can get benefited. This particular product is being launched under the Entrepreneurship Development Program of central government under the Pradhan Mantri Van Dhan Yojana, and its monitoring will be done by Tribal Cooperative Marketing Federation, popularly known as TriFed. So these two examples are just to inform you that the managerial approaches are there, though the managerial part is being taken cover by the government. There may be some small tribal entrepreneurs which can have better idea, which are running through the managerial approaches itself, and on the basis of which they can get benefit. With all this, I must thank you for today's lecture.